Hey, it's Ollie. Before we start today's show, I just wanted to remind you that this show is time-sick, anachronistic, delayed, always, in some way, shape or form. We discuss some of the, post-processors, post-assessors, lineage games that are coming out from the team behind Disco Elysium in their various and fractured forms. And we were talking about it like 6 months ago, so it's nowhere near as fractured as it is now. You know, we nowhere near know as much information as we do now, etc., etc. So just take that whole section with a grain of salt. I'm about to go through it and just make sure that it doesn't, isn't libelous in any way. But other than that, sit back, enjoy the show. It's a good one.
We've been robbed of the sync clap. Sadly, it's all automated now.
Well, we can do it anyway.
we could do it for all time's sake.
You know what it's like? You know what this is like? It's like when KFC started marketing a dish which was their gravy with bits of biscuit broken up into it, and they started marketing this as like a pre-made product, thus just taking from you the simple joy of breaking up a biscuit into your gravy.
When you say biscuit, like
I'm talking like a scone.
Right. Okay. So like American
biscuit. Yeah.
Right. American biscuit. Right.
Yeah, McVitie's and gravy, obviously.
yeah. I don't think I've ever had the urge to dip my custard cream in gravy. Not a euphemism.
No, me neither. Who would want a sweet, beefy treat?
So I was talking to our mutual friend Ella Watts earlier on, and you were just a general catch up, just being like, "How's your day going?" And I was like, "Yeah, well, I've got some work to do in the morning, and then this afternoon I've got a recording with the detectives." Which I don't know, like it's the first time I've referred to us collectively as the detectives, and I don't know, there was something really nice about it, because I feel like, as much as I love the name of our podcast, it is kind of it's a lot of words for a podcast. So it's just been, I've got you can't just casually say, I've got a recording with 3 detectives in a trench coat. That's a lot, Whereas if you're just like, I've got a recording with the detectives, that's kind of got a nice, like, because the other thing for at one point I started describing it as like 3D. But then, like, I'd say to people, I've got a 3D recording, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're working with ambisonics." I'm like, "No, it's
you're using binaural techniques."
No, I'm just recording with 2 nerds.
Oh, I see. You've got the Sennheiser head with the 2 ears and the microphones in the ears.
To answer your question, listener, no, not much has happened since we finished recording the podcast.
Which has been a long time.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Since, when did we finish? Like, in terms of time, when did we finish recording the podcast?
God. Probably just before this time last year.
I was going to say, it would have been about this time last year.
Yeah.
Recording date, 26th of September, 2023.
But we're here
13 months ago.
Yeah, 13
at least 2/3 of us are queer, and we're here to detect your ears in the 3 detectives in the... I'm going to shut up now. 3 detectives in a trench coat. 3 detectives in a trench coat. Hello, you're listening to 3 detectives in a trench coat. I'm named Oliver Morris.
I'm Amber Devereaux.
I'm James Curtis, and that tune rocks every time.
Yeah, so
it's my jam.
A little peek behind the curtain. We're recording this on Riverside rather than how we did it before. So Ollie just dropped the theme tune on us, which I'm not sure I like that. I'm not sure I enjoyed that.
I didn't consent to the theme tune being dropped onto my earballs.
Okay. I'm going to have some weird background sound for a few minutes, so apologies. In James' ongoing problems with recording podcasts.
Just don't make any interesting points.
just don't say anything interesting while the sound.
You can manage that.
I am an accountant. I know how to not make interesting points.
We had a meeting last week to kind of figure out what this was going to be. But this is the first recording we've done together since Three Detectives. So the last recording we did was 13 months ago.
Oh my god. That's a long
How
time.
have you been?
That's a big question.
I was about to make an interesting point. I shouldn't do it. You go ahead.
I guess to jump on James's interesting point that he's not making, we did survive the Tories, and we got a left-wing government. Well, we got a government they got new ties. That's nice.
So we're starting right in on the hard stuff then. Okay.
I think I'll make my point. So we have been living in a world where we have not been playing Disco Elysium, and we have not yet got to the point where more time has passed where we've not been playing Disco Elysium than the time we spent playing Disco Elysium. It has been 13 months, and we played for longer than 13 months. So we are still in recovery, or figuring out what this post-Disco Elysium life is like.
I like that. Yes. No, I think you're right there, actually. Like, Ollie, I know you sort of had a vague idea of what to talk about. But
Oh, yes.
But that's definitely something I want to talk about later.
I want to hear about Camlin before we get into all the serious
all the stuff our
nonsense.
podcast's about, sure, yeah.
It's a weird thing to think about, right? So we recorded Camlin, which is an audio drama podcast that I worked on, and Ollie sound designed an episode of, and it's the best one. We recorded that in October 2023. So it is bizarre to me that all the recordings that we did for Three Detectives in a Trenchcoat happened before Camlin.
Yeah.
Like, that's just wild, because Camlin. So basically, Camlin has been my entire existence between October and May this year. For better or worse, but it's just very strange to think that we finished Three Detectives and then I sort of disappeared for 6 months.
You did sort of disappear into Camlin.
I did, yeah.
What have I done? What have I done? I made 2 episodes of The Lightning Bottler. That's kind of what I did. And a lot of the editing of the Three Detectives.
Oh yeah, you edited this show.
I did edit this show. I did do that.
And all the jingles and all the sound effects and things. Like I think this is
my legacy.
Legacy. What, James? Did Paddleboat come out after? Did you? Yeah, Paddleboat came out after we recorded.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's in the last year. So my first audio drama series came out.
Good Lord!
I have my fellow detectives to thank for a lot of the inspiration that came from it, that went into it. At least it was something that Amber said at one of the podcast festivals that made me kind of realize the sound design I was looking for, and it was a conversation with Ollie that helped me realize what technology I could use to get that sound design. So it's been a labor of it's a combination of love and hate.
Podcasting.
It's not
laborious.
It's been a vainglorious effort, absolutely. But no, it's been a long time for such a short podcast. But I'm very proud of it. It's almost exactly what I wanted it to sound like when I was hearing it in my head, which is really hard to achieve. And I would not have got there without working with these wonderful audio drama people that I get to work with.
I like that your experience of the podcast was like, if there's only something I could do with bread. And Amber goes, in like a thing, what we should do is butter bread. And then you came to me and I was like, right, here's how you use a knife.
Yeah. That is.
Yeah,
but in slightly more complex terms.
It was exactly what it was. Yeah. Anthony, Amber, I keep hearing your name at the end of my favorite podcasts. It must be quite impressive to be the go-to kind of audio designer or sound designer for people's professional passion projects. Right, so you've got Camlan.
What have you been listening to?
I was actually listening to Victoriosity, and I heard your name. You designed a beast.
Oh yes,
which was quite exciting.
I did. I designed the beast in so I designed the beast, and then was told it was too scary, and then had to dial it back.
That's really funny.
I got the note of, can you dial it back a bit? This is a comedy podcast.
That's fun. I remember Ollie had a similar story when they once went out and got a cow, a sound of a cow mooing for some sort of dragon creature, and then was told, no, you've overproduced this.
That was a beautiful piece. That was my audition for the Rusty Quill, to be a sound designer for the Rusty Quill, and I had applied for a couple of jobs at the Rusty Quill because they had a couple of jobs listed, and one of them was podcast. One of them was the patron producer, which was the job I ended up getting for about 6 months, and then I went mad. Not related. But the other job that I had that I applied for was the sound designer job. And so I got this piece from, I think it was from one of the RQ gaming bits. And they were like, right, go away, do what you want to it. And I pulled out all the stops. So I got into a meeting with Alex Newell after the sort of doing all my job entries and applications and doing this bit of sound design. And I was like, what did you think of it? And I am unfortunately professionally vindictive. Whenever I apply for any job, I always, and it's the reason I don't get many jobs, is that I, in my personal statements, kind of make a point of showing that I'm above this whole process, which is why I don't get many jobs. So I made this piece of sort of something that I knew was overproduced. It had like bits where I was like, what's the best? I'm going to use a cow to make the dragon. I'm going to have this going. I'm going to have I Fought the Law and the Law won playing in the background as they drive away in the car. I'm going to have the bit where Alex is having to explain to the DM what they're actually doing again. I'm going to put the car in like the radio in that bit to just sort of prove that it's like sort of in situ and diddle. Whole thing was a nonsense. Sent it to Alex and he got it back after I'd pulled out all the stops, and he said, you could have left a couple of stops in, really. I feel like that was the sort of that wasn't what he said verbatim, but that's the sort of tone of the response that I got. It was like, yeah, this is slightly overproduced for my liking. And I will cut down that story so that nobody gets sued.
Yeah, I was about to say, this isn't making the edit. We can say anything we want now.
Shall we talk about Disco Elysium?
We have lived in a Disco Elysium free world for 13 months, and isn't that interesting?
Yeah, how does it feel to be back talking about Disco Elysium? That's a mixed response.
I think it's welcome, because one thing I've really missed in the last year, and that we kind of could have seen coming, and maybe we did see coming, was that the three of us have had far fewer conversations in the last 13 months than we did in the previous, I think it was about 18.
That's true. Yes.
So, like, I've missed you guys. It's nice to hang out like this, right? And we've had like a couple of side conversations here and there, doing kind of admin, but side quests, absolutely. But yeah, it would be fun to get into the, and we even met up once in real life.
Oh yes, we did. Didn't we?
It's nice to get back on my mic, chatting with you guys for other people's entertainment.
Yeah, it's good. It's nice to be back.
We had a quick, brief conversation about the premise of this particular episode, which is discos of future past.
Yes.
We are essentially haunted by Disco Elysium now. It is no longer something that is present in our life, but is more a spectre that hangs over us. And so, as a result, there are three of us. We are three detectives. And there are also three ghosts. One of past, one of present, and one of future. And I think that it would be fun in this episode if we figure out which one of us is which.
The ghost of Christmas, the ghost of Disco Elysium past is coming at me and taking me on a journey and showing me and saying, oh, look, there I am playing with Kuno, and there I am playing with Kim and his magic parrot.
Oh, look, there I am punching Kuno in the face.
Wow.
Time to.
There I am walking around with one shoe on.
We haven't recorded in 13 months, and we are 20 minutes in, 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, and already. But you never stop going back with that. That's incredible.
Rest in peace.
It's like we didn't do anything else in the whole game.
Waste me, couple.
Jesus Christ. That's something. Yeah, I'd love to ask the person who wrote Kuno's lines Like, why is this option here? And why
Who
is it a
Kuno?
positive thing in the game?
I think when you're first making a podcast or when you're first playing a game, like your early experiences of a character are quite strong and they tend to kind of be the first impression. Whereas I do think, there's the bit later on where you find out that Kuno is basically a nerd, like is really into bugs. I found that really endearing. And also like I'm kind of curious to go back because I know that you can take Kuno to the island.
Well, this is the thing. I took Kuno to the island in our playthrough. So Kuno has a special place in my heart now because Kuno witnesses the Insulinian Phasmid with you, but he doesn't have a camera. And so he's like, I did it. I saw it. Me and Harry, we saw the big insect. And everyone's like, you're a child, shut up. And
No.
your like your empathy just connects with Kuno in that moment, and it's like he is like so mad that this is how the world works, that you can tell the truth and it be a lie. Like, he's sort of Junior Detective Kuno.
Oh, did you get the junior detective ending?
I love him.
Because there's also the ending where he doesn't become a junior detective, and he's like, I think he's maybe like just left behind or something, or maybe put somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
No, I got him a detectiveship.
Yes.
Nice.
He's cut out for the role already. He's already abusing narcotics.
So I ended up. So I in the last episode, I didn't have a nap. I didn't get the dream. Since then, I have like seen a video of that scene, and I'm so sad I didn't get it in the actual game because it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Have either of you had anything like that where you've kind of found something about the game or found a moment in the game of like, oh, I'm really sad I missed this part of the gaming, this part of the experience of playing the game, or I'm sad I didn't get to explore this. I'm sad I didn't get to this bit.
James, you go first.
So I think if anything, it's not that I was sad that I didn't get particular bits, because I did a lot of before we ended the game. I really did a lot of exploration of the rest of the map, and I think I uncovered a lot of the game. But although obviously not from a different, not with a different set of character traits. So that would be interesting. But the thing that I think I wish had happened was I wish I'd found the same points of the game at the same time that you two did. So I remember that you two were discussing the people the young people in the tent who were organizing a drug business / musical business / something which seems actually, now that I've seen the People Make Games video, seems a lot like the foundational concept of Zaum. But yeah, you two were talking about it, and I've since having listened to the podcast as they come out, I have nothing interesting to say about it. But when I finally reached the people in the tent, you've moved on to other sections, and so it's not so much the bits that I didn't see, but I wish I was able to interact with you and talk to you about it at the time, in the right time that you were talking about it.
I still haven't done the Communist Vision quest.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
The 3 Vision
wow,
quests
okay.
are also, yeah.
I've not engaged with it either. I'm waiting for another playthrough to sort of properly engage with the Communist Vision quest.
I do actually have a little bit of a criticism there when it comes to like the game, whereas I do think because I think we finished the game on a Friday or something, right? It was Thursday or Friday. Whereas I'm very like so I'm currently playing Yakuza 0, and when you finish the game, you unlock something called Premium Adventure, which is basically like a free roaming mode.
Okay.
Where you get to kind of go and you just do the side quests. And I think I would appreciate that in Disco Elysium, because I do think like there is just sort of just slightly too much in the game to
cram into one
properly,
sitting.
to cram into one playthrough. And like, as much as I love doing multiple playthroughs, I think just having a mode where it's just like you're not constricted by time. But then again, I guess I think a point I make in the podcast is that like I think an interesting point that the game makes is that there is never enough time to do things. You know, like you are playing a game that takes place inside a world that is running out of time.
Yeah, it is a game that takes place between apocalypses. The first apocalypse being the sort of communist revolution, which resets the world to the year 0, and the bombs that will fall on Revachol in 50 years from then. In the name of one of the new innocences, I found out in a
Oh
lore
wow, okay.
But it's kind of post Kurvitz law, so grain of salt and all that sort of thing. It's like it's law that they gave during the Collards drop, so it's like I don't know how how lawful is that law or whatever, but I think he mentions it in the books as well. In Sacred and Terrible Air, there's a sort of mention of the new innocents and their desire to sink the Insulidian into the Pale.
Oh, so have you read A Sacred and Terrible End?
I have not yet. It's on my list of things to do. Interesting things about that. We will talk to people who have later.
Ooh, future hints at future
hint.
endeavors. What was it you said in the meeting document? The continuation of the exercise.
The continuation of the exercise.
Well, on that note, on specifically the Amber, that one criticism, Amber, that you made, I would say that the vision quests, they're not the only things that you miss, but in terms of main game activity, they are the biggest boundaried experiences in the game that come from deciding what kind of character you are, right? You have the choice of whether you're going to, of how you get past his name's not Taser-Faced. What's the name of the Measurehead? Taser-Faced.
Who turns out to actually have a really lovely monologue in the game later on.
Oh, if you go down the fascist route, you sit and have a long conversation with him about his past and his semen retention program.
Jesus Christ. God. Man, I guess. Oh. Sorry, I just roasted. That was an absolute recoil. Sorry, James.
So for example, I think there are two ways of getting past Measurehead, depending on which kind of character you are. But those are relatively small differences in how the gameplay works, and I'm glad that you aren't able to do both within the same game. That wouldn't make much sense for how the game works. But you're right that these vision quests are boundaried, and you would have to replay the whole game to see a different vision quest. But in terms of how the game was designed, this is also like a layer of game design that's been superimposed upon the original game, right? Upon the original release of the game.
It's in the final cut. It's not in the original Disco Elysium. Yeah.
So I think it shouldn't be a I'm not sure it's fair as it is fair as a criticism of the final thing that we played, but this is what happens when you add anything, when you add any part of kind of an ergonomic design of a way something's supposed to be used towards the end of the production. It's very hard to make it integrate it in
the same way,
which is why even though I think it is very well integrated in, it does sit on top, and you can have this criticism of this section. But it is interesting that the observation of like your criticism of this, your key criticism there is about something that's been a layer that's been superimposed on top, as opposed to something which is kind of driven through the game from initial creation of the game.
I mean, a little bit, yeah. I mean, I guess it was more that like I feel like I didn't get to the end of the Communist Vision Quest because but then again, I guess also it's sort of I think part of that might be down to like because we at that point we were barreling towards the end of our playthroughs and we were kind of like right, well, we need to finish the game, so maybe it's a thing for me to do outside of the podcast. But at the same time, it feels wrong. Like I've opened up Disco Elysium a couple of times to like, oh, maybe I'll give this a go, but I'm just like, it doesn't feel right to start the game without you both there. Like I'm just like, I feel like it's sort of been inevitably kind of like imprinted on the two of you.
I will say that the game apparently is much faster when you're playing it by yourself. And less. I suspect less confusing because you don't have months between reading a clue and then seeing the thing that you're supposed to connect that clue
to. Yes, it's faster because you don't have to wait for everyone else to be free.
A close friend of mine played through the whole game. I can't remember how he did it. I think somewhere between 12 and 15 hours or something like that. And he just kind of got all the game, and it was like, yeah, it was nice and simple. It's like I don't think he actually described it as simple, but he's kind of a very smart person, and he was able to determine what the answers were before he was given kind of the more obvious clues. So it was kind of weird to talk to him about this video game that he played so that he can listen to this podcast without spoilers. And then he was like, "Yeah,
Aw.
sweet, isn't it?" And then he was like, "Yeah, but the game didn't allow me to work on the things that I figured out." I was like, "What do you mean you figured out?" "Well, you put these things that these three people say together, and this is obviously how it happened." It's like, "Oh yes, you're right. Why did I not see it?" It was like the real ending to a book. It was so weird.
So the way your friend is chatting is basically how I feel about playing D&D, and that like sometimes I'll figure out the puzzle, but then I'll be like, "Damn, my character is too stupid to figure out the puzzle."
Yeah.
So I'm like trying to communicate the solution to the puzzle without saying I know what the answer to the puzzle is. It's very frustrating. But yeah, no, I get it. But also as well, I think that's a very, I mean, potentially mercenary is too strong a word, but like I think just looking at Disco Elysium as a mystery game, a game where you solve a mystery, I think is flattening the experience slightly a little bit, right?
Absolutely. It'd be like looking at something without the context. I wanted to pull a simile there, but Thursday. It's a Thursday. I can never get the hang of
Thank you.
Thursdays. Yeah,
You can tell it's been 13 months, can you?
I'm trying to think of what would be something blatantly obvious. Yeah, no, it's like thinking of Disco Elysium as a purely cop simulator game is like ignoring the fact that you have 24 voices of reason. It's ignoring the fact that everyone is, in this sort of post-communistic wasteland, and it just ignores all the sort of intricacy of the world building and the world that you are in, which is as important to understanding why it happened as it is to the rest of it, sort of thing.
Yes, it's a holistic mystery.
It's a holistic mystery.
Much like our friend Dirk Gently.
Yes, except less silly.
Except, I mean, it's still pretty silly.
Still pretty silly, though.
I'm currently congratulating myself on having friends and podcast co-creators who will make back-to-back different Douglas Adams references. Super happy about that. That's awesome.
So as we get to Disco Present, I feel like we need to start with a quote from the Woke Detector.
Yes, I just brought that up. Yes.
Woke Content Detector, which is a group on Steam who are, well, not only bigoted but stupid.
Yes.
So basically, they rate games on a scale of -1, 0, or 1.
Huh.
1 means contains no woke content. -1 means contains woke content, and 0 means contains partially woke content. Disco Elysium, The Final Cut, has made the list. By the way, loads of games have made the list. So, do we want guesses? Is Disco Elysium woke?
Oh, I'm currently looking at it, but I will let James guess.
James, is Disco Elysium woke?
I mean, so it certainly discusses woke themes, so I would say yes. Maybe 0.
Correct.
Okay.
It features multiple LGBTQ+ characters, including the player character.
Ooh.
Depending on which storyline you go for. And heavy social commentary regarding communism, whether pro or anti is unclear. Which is the most left-wing thing about it, really.
Yes. The most communist thing that Disco Elysium does is that it complains about communism. I think it actually says that at some point, being like, when you do the I think I say this in the episode. What it says is when you get your spirit quest to be a communist, it kind of says like, oh, do we have to criticize other communists? Like, oh yes, criticizing other communists is a very important part of being a communist. It also critiques online leftism, which I absolutely love. Like I think it's the thing that has haunted me from playing this game the most is the text you get when you internalize Mazovian socioeconomics. Is the person who has learned about Mazovian socioeconomics has realized that the world is unfair and they can't do anything about it. However, they're very clever now. So all they do is sit and build a perfect recreation of this unfair world and talk about how unfair it is. And I think that is a thought that I have internalized. It's something that I think is I think it's honestly one of the best things that the game does, is that it kind of says like, okay, go out and do something about it, rather than just complain about it online all the time, which I really love.
You have become a bit more of an activist post disco.
Huh.
I have. I mean, a little bit, like a tiny bit. I do think it's worth going through through some more things in this woke game list.
Maybe they've done you a great favor and like, here's some games you should play because they've got themes you like, in your games.
The Call of Duty games are woke.
Yeah, you can get player banners. You can get pride banners.
You can get pride banners.
Yeah,
That's it. That's it.
pro LGBTQIA messaging.
Yeah. The thing that made me really cross was that it was called Woke Content Detector, which, to be honest, was what I was going to suggest the name of the podcast be. So I was really disappointed.
We'd be woke content detectives.
Yes. We are the woke content detectives. So are you content detectives who are woke, or do you detect woke content? Yes.
My eyes have never been wider. So yeah, in terms of how is disco affecting our present lives?
Yes.
So we, like James says, we are 13 months on from our disco initiation. Is there anything that you took from the game that became like a thing in your thought cabinet that is now like a thing in your life?
Yes. So I mean, it's maybe I have to take a step back to appreciate it, but I now play more video games than before we started this podcast. Because when we first in our first episode, I was like, I don't really play video games. It's still not a major hobby for me, but no, I now like it becomes once in a while if my brain's too active or not active enough or something, some sort of thing like that, or if I even just have fun, I'll be like, okay, let's give this game a go, and I've tried out a few games since then. I'm also happy to kind of stop playing a game quite quickly, but I've tried a few games. So yeah, so I guess I love the way you asked the question, because one thing that I've definitely internalized are games can be enjoyable and you can try them out, and
yes.
So this was something I hadn't done since I was 18.
I'm glad you're playing video games.
Yeah. I mean, like I am as well. I think I've got to find my kind of video game I enjoy playing, though, because disco is still the best game I've played, and maybe that's just because that's the one that suits me. But I'm excited about more experiences with you two, because I think part of the reason disco was the best game I've played is because it was much more social playing it with you two. Yeah. Whereas it doesn't feel social to, like, Wolfenstein was definitely not a social game.
That's a jump, isn't it?
I tried like 45 minutes of BioShock, and I was like, no, this is just a horror experience. I don't want this. And there was a couple of like shoot 'em up games that I played that were fun for a while, but I don't really want to finish. I'm not invested in the quest of whatever Borderlands was about, or whatever Rage was about. They're not. I just like, oh look, I get to have fun guns.
They're not compelling.
Yeah, they're not compelling. So not for me.
One day we'll play Spec Ops: The Line. We won't play Spec Ops: The Line. We might play Spec Ops: The Line. That's the only shooting game I can think of with like a story.
I keep hearing things about it, and I'm like, ooh, okay, interesting. Like,
it's because the main premise of it, is it's a piss take, not a piss take, but it's a sort of genuine send up of the Heart of Darkness.
Right. Right. Okay.
War is hell, and you're there to go basically extract an American who has become a warlord in a sort of dusty nation. It's a sort of post 9/11 kind of game, but it's drawing on those sort of themes of colonialism and the military industrial complex and all sorts of kind of interesting stuff, which is like, I could shoot some baddies and think about why I'm doing it, and wondering more and more whether they're actually that bad or whether I'm just a horrible oppressor.
I mean, like, go to that. That's a heavy thing for a game to tackle. That's kind of amazing.
Amber, have you had any sort of thought cabinet moment? I think you sort of mentioned one, which is why I sort of brought us onto the subject.
Thinking the thoughts.
Well, I mean, I think just to kind of go off James's point a little bit, like I do think it's it's not necessarily got me back into games. I think that's maybe putting too fine a point on it, but I do feel like I'm completing games more. Like I'm very bad for kind of getting to a certain point in a game and just being like, no, like maybe not. Whereas with this game, because we were like, no, we're finishing this. I do think I'm a lot more kind of likely to like play through. I think it gave me a bit more stamina when it comes to video games, which I kind of really love. I think in terms of like, I don't think it's necessarily affected the kinds of games that I play. I mean, because like I still play like my platformers. But I think with RPGs at least, I think I am a bit more discerning about certain aspects of them, or I'm a bit more discerning about like what I play. Like I used to really love city building games. I still do to a large extent. I still very much enjoy sort of city planning games, very like because number go up. I like building things, but I was playing a multiplayer version of one with my friend a while ago, and he made a very good point because so like the standard thing is you build a residential zone, you put a police station down, and it means your crime levels go down, and that's just how you play the game. But my friend was just like, yeah, so I put a police station down and then I just start like habitually defunding the police and like opens up the budget thing and just drags the police funding thing all the way down. And I just thought it was this interesting point of just like, yeah, I've, like when you're playing these games, well, at least in my experience when I've been playing these games, I never really thought about like connecting the game to reality. And I think Disco Elysium broaches that in an interesting way, I think. I think in a slightly more real level, like we joked about how Disco Elysium is a radicalizing game. I do think it did. I do think it radicalized me a little bit. Or actually, no, that's maybe putting too fine. That's maybe too strong. But like, I don't think it radicalized me. I think it gave me it gave me sort of like a blueprint for like how to do something with all the kind of anger and emotions I was having about like wanting things to change and wanting to get things changed. I think something beautiful that Disco Elysium does, at least in my experience, is that it's very much just like you can try and you should try, and it might not necessarily work, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't. I think something I'm very guilty of is that, and I can't remember the exact quote, but it's just like there are some people who will not do anything unless it's like perfect, or they'll criticize people who do anything because they didn't do it perfectly, or they didn't do everything right. And I think Disco Elysium sort of showed, because I never reloaded a save. I think if I did, I think I maybe only did it once or something out of frustration. But like I very much was just like, no, I'm going to stick to these decisions. And for the most part, things got worse. It's a very good game in terms of saying like, one of the things it says about communism is just like, look, communism has always failed, but that doesn't necessarily mean we should get. I think there's a beautiful quote where it's just like, you could equally say that love has failed, but we're not giving up on that, are we? Without wishing to, go too much into it. Now, like I do a lot more work that could be classed as activism now. And I do think that's kind of as a result of playing this game and kind of being like, you can sit and build this perfect recreation of this unfair world, or you can kind of get out there and try and make things better for people. And you won't get everything right. You'll make mistakes. Like you will most likely upset a lot of people, but you might also help people. You might also move the dial ever so slightly more towards justice. Even if it's irrelevant, it's still worth doing. And I think that's definitely something I got from this game.
Yeah.
Sorry, I felt like I made the tone more serious.
Well, I was going to say, I think one of the things I was going to say about my sort of experience of Disco Elysium, the sort of the third time round, was that I think I had just a greater appreciation for the writing. The first time I did it, the first time I played through Disco Elysium, I was in a halfway house in Dunstable, which had the area code 666, which for all the Dunstable. Hold on, I'll tell this story properly. So when I first started playing Disco Elysium, I was in a halfway house in Dunstable, recovering from a psychotic break. And by recovering, I mean I was still basically in the midst of a psychotic break, but they had run out of hospital time for me. They moved me to Dunstable, which is a town built on a crossroads where all the area codes for the phone numbers start 01234 666.
Jesus.
And I'm like, all right, I've been moved to hell. This is my fate.
No.
Jeez.
So I'm going to play Disco
The
Elysium.
devil has come to Dunstable.
The devil has come to Dunstable. The devil went down to Dunstable.
Sorry.
Oh, I can't think of. So that was the first time I played Disco Elysium, and then I played it with Jude, who's the sound designer on Cane and Fields, and kind of got to sort of relive it again. But this time, when I was sort of playing it, I was sort of in control, and I sort of had these two experiences, and I finally got to sort of sit and appreciate the sort of artistic craft of the game. In a way that sort of like, I don't think we discuss it much in the sort of video, but in the podcast, because we're usually discussing the themes of it. But it's really well written.
Oh yeah,
It's really well written. It's built so wonderfully, and I've just finished writing this script for Mrs. Shipton's Traveling Tea Shop, and a lot of the kind of sort of world building of Disco Elysium kind of found its way into this sort of script, in as much as it's sort of hint, don't tell.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you guys, I think, did quite erudite playthroughs, which is you had like high int scores, and whenever I went through it, I was either like body or physical or mental. And so I didn't get a lot of the sort of the subtext. So subtext was thrown at me, but I didn't get like lore drops in the same way.
Okay.
And so I was sort of going through, sort of piecing together this world. And then when I learned about the stuff about the Pale, I was like, oh, I really need to learn about the Pale. But I had gone through two playthroughs of the game with the Pale just being like a hint in the back of my mind. And there was something about that. So in this, so I won't go too far into it, but one of the themes in the Shipton's Traveling Tea Shop is that there are witches, and of course the thing we know about witches is they tend to get burnt. And so there was this whole sort of idea of like post-persecution. What does witchcraft look like? And I had it sort of fresh in the mind, but as if the witch hunts had happened 30 years ago rather than 300, sort of thing. And yeah, it was just I don't know. It was just Kurvitz's et al, because et al is very important when thinking about Disco Elysium. Kurvitz did not write in a vacuum.
Yes.
They put together a game that was that has sort of changed my approach to storytelling. There's a lot that can be hinted at, which hints to a grander world than the one written on the page. And I think that's dope. And I think that's the thing I've taken away from it.
It does not surprise me that there are playlists online of like just Volition saying things with some music underneath. Shivers. Like people have made these compilations and they're all amazing. Yeah, it's something we didn't necessarily touch on too much in the thing, but yeah, the writing throughout was just a pleasure to read and play through. Like I think there was at least one session where I spent the first hour just reading through my casebook and just disappearing. I just sat and read a book basically for an hour, and the fact that there is so much writing is an incredible feat in and of itself as well. But also, I think it's a good point to make that you made it, Ollie, that like Kurvitz doesn't write in a vacuum, and I think like I believe it is against the spirit of the game to lay all of it at Kurvitz's feet, being like, Kurvitz is the genius behind Disco Elysium, because I don't think that's true. I think it's one of the reasons why I think what's happened since since we recorded the podcast, everything that's come out in the past, however 13 months or whatever, and I think a lot of the more toxic aspects of it is that people are like, Kurvitz is the genius, Kurvitz is the mastermind, when it's just like, you have learned nothing from the game. Like, And it makes me really angry.
So I think this is a good point to move it into the Ghost of Disco Futures.
Yes,
All
this
5
Disco
of them.
Elysium is speedrunning the history of communism.
So I think I can't remember if I was talking to one of you about like how just we might be jumping ahead a bit, but the breakup of the Zaum creative team and the split into kind of multiple other potential spiritual successors, as I think people are calling themselves, or other people are calling these
Yes.
game designs.
Yes.
Should we do a précis of what's happened, at least in terms of where we are, in terms of what we're thinking of what we heard?
Well, where we currently be is that there are 5 spiritual successors at this point. There's
Was it
Zaum proper.
5? I thought I've only got 3 here.
Well, there's Zaum proper.
Oh yes,
Four,
okay.
yes.
There's the company that Curvitz set up, which I think we may have touched on. It's set up in Brighton. I can't remember the name of it. Red
Okay.
something.
Yep.
And then there's
There's Longdew,
Longdew. Yeah.
who have said that they're making a game, but they've not made any announcements yet, as far as I can tell. All my info, by the way, from here is coming from Rock Paper Shotgun, who've done a lot of writing up about this.
Mm-hmm.
And for Longdew, the article on Rock Paper Shotgun has a really good quote, which is, "I'm withholding all personal judgment and comment for now, except to say that the press release contained the words, a bold new artistic endeavor that aims to trailblaze," which reads like Harry Dubois describing the Sharpie dick he just drew in a toilet stall. The second one is by a studio called...
I remember the name of the game, but not the name of the studio. It's
called,
Night.
well, the
Shift.
game is called XXX Night Shift.
Yes.
A cerebral sci-fi RPG set in a posh polo hotel about a detective solving gruesome murders, breaking sacred hearts, or just killing bloody time.
It sounds like XXX Night Shift sounds very adult oriented, doesn't it?
You play a detective on holiday at an Antarctic ski resort. Yeah, dark math games. Sorry, that's what they're called.
Dark math games. Yes.
Dark math games. Yes. So neither of these have any involvement from Kurvitz and Rostov. But XXS Night Shift has a trailer. It does look a lot like Disco Elysium, in terms of like the sort of the way the dialogue is presented and the kind of movement of it. It seems kind of cool.
The best critique I've heard of Night Shift so far, it was from my mate David, who said, "Yes, what Disco Elysium needed was more guns."
Yes.
That's what was missing from Disco Elysium.
The third one, Summer Eternal, I think is the most interesting to talk about.
Mm.
So,
two of agreement there, Amber.
It's definitely the most like. So the first two I think are very professional, in terms of like we are a grown-up game studio, a much more sort of traditional structure, and we they're thinking of it in terms of like we're going to make forward-thinking, cerebral, we're going to trailblaze games, that sort of thing. Whereas Summer Eternal is basically like a socialist game. It's a socialist cooperative game studio.
It's very much what Zaum was.
Yeah, so it's
or aims to be what Zaum was.
So one of the founders is Argo Chulik, who I believe is the writer of Kuno's writer, I believe, one of the main writers on Disco Elysium. The website, you go into it and you are presented with a red web page with like a little gif of a barn on fire, and it says, "A single spark, a prairie fire." They are a game studio art collective that is worker and player owned. So there's a cooperative structure. There's a very thorough breakdown of their company structure. So their whole studio architecture. If you are a player, so the 5% of shares will be put to a non-profit organization where if you play the game, if you have a copy of the game, you can be a member of this non-profit organization. Basically, to be powerful enough to summon a general assembly to discuss a topic. And it's the voice of gamers in an experimental attempt to formalize the community decision-making in game development. Like, this all looks and sounds amazing.
One word for it, yep.
Yeah. Like, I think this is a very good, lofty idea. Mm-hmm. I hope it works in practice. I hope I'm wrong. But my general feeling is for all three of these, I don't think anything is going to come out of them, or anything of anything good is going to come out of them.
Well, we live in a post-disco world now. I think we'll get imitators, but I don't know if we'll get disco. You know what I mean?
Well, we should also mention. I'd like to also mention. I think it's called Sovereign Syndicate, which I have not played. But as it is not a spiritual successor in so fast that any of the designers was on the team, but it's clearly inspired by Disco. I've seen the trailer and I've seen a short part of the playthrough, and they've got lots of the same. It's a lot of the same type of movement, view on the character, dialogues, option like thoughts coming in, that sort of thing. So it is a very much a taking a lot of the ideas that of Disco Elysium style playing and Elysium style playing and kind of running with it, which is quite cool conceptually, and that's already out. So although it's not very successful yet. So I've been thinking about kind of what metaphor works for this kind of breaking up of the breaking up the band and people going off and doing their own things. And I've kind of Disco Elysium, I feel like there's two ends of a spectrum that I kind of want to describe. There's the did I mention this in our previous chat? The 19th century, the end of the 19th century. There's like a small art movement of artists who don't feel like their work is really being appreciated, so they put on their own summer exhibition and effectively invent impressionism and inspire a whole bunch of people to create post-impressionism and impressionism and post-impressionism. And until that point, art had been about trying to get things as realistic as possible, and suddenly it's art kind of exploded in lots of different directions, entering the 20th century, and we have all sorts of art kind of coming from this one moment in France. And on the other end, we have something akin to the breakup of One Direction, or the breakup of, or the breakup, maybe not, or the breakup.
No, I'm
or the breakup of the Beatles, or something, right? So perhaps more like the breakup of the Beatles. Beloved,
the post where your options are either whatever John and Yoko are doing or Wings.
Precisely, right? So as in,
hey, George Harrison had a very successful solo.
George Harrison.
Here's the thing: they all three of the all four. I didn't. Ringo also had a mildly successful career for actually for longer than anyone else had it. But
peace and love.
There are a couple of Wings songs I've heard, and I thought that's really good. I've never actually listened to the Plastic Ono Band, but I'm sure John Lennon did not lose his creative spark after he'd left the Beatles. But clearly there was the magic fizzled out, or there was not enough collective desire to elevate their separate
works.
There's
never another Beatles.
So there wasn't. There's not really a great post Beatles song from any of those individuals that you think that has as big a following as any of the Beatles songs, I think.
What are you talking about? Live and Let Die is a classic.
Was that by one of the Beatles? So music knowledge is failing.
That's by Paul McCartney.
Yeah. Well, there we go. So,
and then
I was actually thinking of the frog song. Boom, boom, boom. There are a couple of songs which, I'm really glad that were made. But it was not the Beatles, and I think Zao might be the art movement of the invention of a post-impressionism world of game design, and we're about to kind of fly out into the world of lots of different types of games and game designers being influenced and jumping out and creating new things in the same style. Or we might be about to get a few other interesting things that we might enjoy, but maybe they'll inspire things, but maybe not.
I think I'm hoping that it's a Blur situation. We'll get like a couple of Graham Coxon albums. And then we'll also get Gorillaz. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping that there'll be something. But there is an argument there that, and even with, the Beatles argument, it's like everyone kind of went off and made their own thing. And, George Harrison made some pretty good music afterwards.
Yeah, the Traveling Wilburys were a thing, and they were great.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make that kind of these are neither of these are particularly bad scenarios, but there is this energy in the air of I think someone at some point described it as there was the game design world as post Disco Elysium game design world or something like that, and that's one end of the spectrum, and the other end is there could be three good games coming out or one good game coming out following up Disco Elysium.
I think my concern is that they're trying to chase Disco Elysium. I think the best thing that these people could do, and it's interesting. So, was it Dark Math? Dark Math Games. They've released a trailer for a game that looks a lot like Disco Elysium, and and plays a lot like Disco Elysium. The first one, Longdew, the statement they've put out is basically saying, yes, we're making Disco Elysium again. Longdew's debut RPG explores the delicate interplay between the conscious and subconscious, the seen and unseen. Set in a world where choices ripple between the character's psyche and environment, players will navigate a constantly shifting landscape shaped by both internal and external forces. It's basically like that's a very marketing way of saying we're making Disco Elysium too.
Yeah.
Whereas Summer Eternal, I don't believe they've said anything about what they're making. They're talking more about what their studio is doing. But I think my concern is that like they're gonna try and do Disco Elysium again, which is impossible. You know, it's if you look at like I think there's Disco Elysium is one of these kind of wonderful things that like it is just this sort of was it flash in the pan? Is that the phrase where it's just like torch paper just you know the spark has happened, and that's a very rare thing that happens, and I think if you're trying to just do it again, you do end up kind of not cheapening the original, but it's this sense of just like the worst thing you can do is tie yourself to this. Like the best thing you should be doing is trying to go your own path and kind of do something your way. Like sure, like you know, point back to Disco Elysium, being like, oh, the lessons I learned on Disco Elysium, but like don't try and remake it. You know, here is my new character Barry Duhois.
No, sure.
I have just thought of the worst phrase: disclonalizagens.
Oh, I think somebody in one of these articles has described them as Disco Elysium likes.
Oh yeah, but there's not disclonalizagen.
That was well done.
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
So, I mean, but, you know, you could, like, so another comparison industry in terms of getting closer to the world of games is the escape room industry, right? The escape room concept was a game in a completely different, and it was completely unlike any one experience, but it is very obviously a game. And, you know, there are problems within that industry of people kind of being too close imitators to other local games and game companies, but also you don't want them to veer too far away from the idea of being locked in a room, having to solve puzzles. And I think that, you know, like these people, if they go away and they try to make something with Barry Dubois, 100%, that's silly. But if they go away and they try to make, okay, well, what other, you know, how else can we, you know, take the basic, you know, some of the basic design principles we had in this game and, you know, apply them in a fresh way. I think that could be very interesting and spurn a new kind of genre of games, right? No one really gets frustrated at two first-person shooters because they're both first-person shooters. They're only getting frustrated when there's not enough differences between them.
So I think at this point, detectives, we should all choose our horse.
Ooh, okay. What we're picking a Disco Elysium studio.
And the person with the highest Metascore critic rating after 5 years wins.
I was going to say, like, these games might never get released.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Like, we're going to get Jonathan Frakes. It never happened, kind of, you know.
Yeah, and if it never happens, then they get a 0. So we all start at 0, and then whatever our Metascore rating is the. For the Disclone Elise again is the
Disclone Elise again game.
The Metascore. I love this idea, but the Metascore, the Metacritic score, well, help me.
Yes,
that thing.
Metacritic
score. Thank you. Like, you know, what if they make more than one game? Is it their highest Metacritic score as an industry? What if they move on? What if they end up making a game?
Oh, they make more than one game. They win.
Or what? You know, what if they make a Bloons
first person to 2 games?
If two of them make a Disco clone and one of them make a Bloons clone, and that one gets the higher Metacritic score, I'm not sure that's fair.
I think that's fair though. I think, you know, if honestly, what is it? What's the radical one?
Summer Eternal.
If Summer Eternal come out with a tower defense game, power to them.
Yeah, but it's a tower defense game where you are the invading army because it's a revolution.
Oh,
exactly.
That's a really fun conceit.
Oh my god, you have taken over a town with your revolution. Fend off the fascists.
Summer Eternal, we are available if you need writers and sound designers and
People to
and
comment.
things. Like,
We'll call it something easy like Stalingrad. Don't do that.
we just call it Pavlov's house. Oh wait, no, that's already a thing.
Oh no.
To be honest, yeah, like if Summer Eternal, like, so you have these two studios trying to make Disco Elysium likes, and then Summer Eternal turn around and go, yeah, we made a tower defense game. Like, that's the best thing they could do.
Yeah. So my proposal is we all choose one. I'm happy to choose last. And whoever gets the highest Metacritic score wins on their first game. If they release more games, then yay. That's just like more cake. But for the purposes of the competition, it's their first release.
I do want to just quickly make sure that see what Summer Eternal are, if they're actually working on something, or if they're just. I don't think they are. I think they've just said we're a company that exists.
Yeah.
Oh, but there's multiple horses in this race.
It's based in Croatia.
You could also choose Zaum.
Yeah, you could choose Zaum, or you could choose the other company.
I think I'll go for the. I should, like, here's the thing. Like, if I were a betting man, I'd do a bit more research about who went to where. But I don't personally like the sound of. Well, I don't know. I mean, so I didn't like the visual design of Night Shift, Triple X Night Shift, or XX Night Shift, or. And I want to allow one of you to pinky lefties to take
Pinko lefty.
take Summer Eternal.
Pinky lefty.
Pinky lefties to take the Summer Eternal ones. So I'll take the.
I'll take Summer Eternal.
I'll take the
right,
one that
Summer
I'll take
Eternal.
of those three copycat clones. I'll take the one that wasn't the Night Shift.
It is not pencil pushers and moneylenders who make games. It is the relentless passion of the workers that creates an art form truly capable of saying something true. The profiteer knows that by keeping your dignity low, he will keep you crawling on the treadmill of passion until he lays you off for the sake of the red number in his book. We make games because we have to. It is our calling, because we have no choice but to see the transformative potential of this youngest medium of human interaction. You can't turn away once you've seen the light, or it will always feel like everyone else in the world is doing something without you. They have a manifesto on their website, and it's amazing.
It's really good.
When you say it in that voice, it does sound.
In this, we are committed to pursue the highest caliber of literary quality.
No,
yes.
I tell you what, this sounds to me like the necktie, because you would often emulate the necktie.
I think that's more me. I think that's me.
I'm going to do Red Info, which is Kurvitz's new company, which is backed by the Chinese internet company NetEase.
Oh my god! What the hell?
I think that's a good shout. I think of the three remaining, that's the most likely. I mean, Zaum has the infrastructure, but is mired by bad press. Red Info doesn't. It needs to get off the ground by two people who I think are so burned out that they are just trying to get on by day to day. And the other one, didn't like the look of it. Maybe.
So let's lock in our choices.
Okay, so locking our choices. I am going Red Info.
I am going Summer Eternal.
I'm going with the one whose name I don't know.
Night.
Not that one.
Shift. Is it Night Shift? No, not Night Shift.
The
Dark.
one with the.
Do you mean XXX Night Shift?
No.
That's
That's exactly the one that hasn't. The one that hasn't released anything yet.
Oh, the one that sounds bland.
Yes!
Long Dew.
Yes.
Dew.
I think that's the one.
LONGDUE.
Incredible
Yes.
choice.
So
Brilliant choice. Love that choice.
There we will be able to embark on that treacherous road of building a cultural mega project, a role-playing game with complexity and ambition, worthy to rival our wretched and wonderful world.
I got the horse right here. His name is Paul Revere, and
I will say, so just reading about Longdew. So it consists of 12 people, including team members that worked on Disco Elysium, and also their drawing talent from Bungie, Rockstar, and the team behind Yes, Your Grace, which is actually a really good game. So Longdew, I think, are probably the one that are most likely to actually make a game.
The last bit before we actually disappear for a couple of, well, at least a month, is we have some things in the pipeline.
We have updates, yes.
Detective Futures.
Yeah.
Yes, the continuation of the exercise.
The continuation of the exercise.
By the way, listeners, so when we had our meeting last week, Ollie was in charge of putting the agenda together, and basically we were linked to a Google Doc that at the title said 3 detectives in a meeting.
That was wonderful. And you will never see a more entertaining agenda. If you are looking for someone to design an agenda for you for a meeting, I can recommend no one better than Ollie Myers.
The choosing of the Gaminum. So, yes, the continuation of the exercise. We, as a collective, put it to a vote whether we would carry on doing this bullshit. And we said yes! Hooray!
Unanimously, yes.
Yes.
Unanimously. With only 3 holdouts.
Turns out there is more that unites us than divides us, after all, listeners.
And so, in the spirit of that, we have a schedule in place. We will be continuing some of our disco talks with some esteemed guests, which is very hype, and
very
we'll
hype.
be doing that. But there is also
drum roll, please.
There is a post-disco world. There is a post-disco world, ladies and gentlemen, and those in between, and those outside of it completely. And that is, we will be doing some one-offs.
Yes.
Some one-shots. Before diving into a brand new series of 3 detectives in a trench coat.
Yeah, our casework is piling up on the desk, and we should probably go address it at some point as one-off.
The first game I think we'll be doing as a one-off is a game that Amber has been asking us to play for a very long time now, which is The Beginner's Guide.
Yes, I love that game very much, and I've not played it in ages.
Can you give us like a synopsis, like a blurb?
Yeah, so it's a very linear game, but it's a game about making games, but it's also a game about telling stories, and it's also a game about what it means to make things, and if it's possible to make things purely for yourself and not for an audience. Every time I've played it maybe a couple of times in my life, and every time I've played it, I've got something new out of it, and I've never been able to talk to anyone else about it. So I'm excited to see what the 2 of you get out of it.
Wonderful. James, you have also brought a game to the table.
Yes.
Called Brothers, something.
A Tale of Two Sons.
Nailed it.
Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons.
A very interesting game, which I first heard about through, I think it's a YouTube series called Extra Credits, I think is where I first heard about it, because of its innovative use of like hardware to reinforce, like keyboard / mouse or something to reinforce. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's keyboard to reinforce game design.
Yeah, it's like if you're playing with a controller, one half of the controller is one brother, the other half of the controller is the other brother.
So and like I thought that reinforcing the game. I think it's very. I've played it, these 2 haven't, and that's rare. And I don't have many options. It's been a year I've been playing games, right? So I have many games. So this is the one that they hadn't played.
Beautiful. And I'm bringing to the table Oxenfree.
I'm really excited about playing that.
Which is a game about a spooky island, and the main mechanic is you tune a radio, and that's all I'm saying about it.
Nice. So definitely up my street.
Yeah. There will be angsty teens.
Didn't you say it's also about like war crimes?
There are some war crimes in there,
That's not up my street. I just want to make that very clear to the listeners.
It's up mine. Geneva who? Never heard of her.
Geneva who?
Oh, if you're going to lean in that like that, that's a great way to lean in big. Yeah.
So after we've done our one-offs, what is the plan? Should we tell the delightful listeners what our next campaign is going to be?
Well, in the spirit of Summer Eternal, let's put it to a vote. I vote yes.
I vote yes too.
Oh wow! I mean,
all decisions are unanimous.
Nice when you really feel that your vote matters.
No, all decisions are unanimous.
Oh, I see. Well then, yeah, go ahead. Why not?
Okay, so listeners, imagine running a game studio like this,
but with more people. And half of them exhausted.
I'm exhausted after that.
we will be going from Revachol to another seaside town called Arcadia Bay as we play as Max Caulfield, teen detective and photographer in Life is Strange.
That's right. We're going to be playing the entire game, all episodes.
All 5
the
episodes.
first season, yes.
And we're not going to play the prequel.
We're not going to play the
'cause
prequel.
There's no detectiving.
Or the sequel.
And we're not going to play the sequel,
which I believe is going to be out soon.
Which is it's fine. Or the spiritual successor, True Colors, or the we might play True Colors, or the most recently released Double Exposure. We'll just be playing the original, and these two I think will be playing it in like glossy high definition versions where each hair has its own individual strain, and I will be playing it in the original block character colors that it came in.
Excellent.
Yes, so James and I have both bought the remaster, and Ollie is playing the original.
Stubbornly playing the original. Because I already own it.
No, I think that's fair enough. I mean, I don't know. I've been playing Tomb Raider, and I've played the original Tomb Raider, and I've played the more recent Tomb Raiders, and you're still just pointing and clicking to make the bad guys go down. So it's not too different.
No, James, don't you know? The new games are too woke. Her titties ain't as big.
No, stop. No. We're not ending the show like that.
Oh, that's glorious. I was like, she's like that. No, this is a great example, Amber, of how you have become more of an activist. You interrupted it, which was the right thing to do.
Okay, look here, listen, look. Look, this is us signing off our first campaign of Disco Elysium.
Yeah, that's a better ending.
Like we should have more of a sign. We should have more of a sign off. We should be thanking the listeners for coming with us on this journey. We should be thanking each other for going on this wild journey.
We should be thanking
together.
the game.
Yeah, we you know what? We should.
No! Stop it! So I can actually pause the music from here as well.
I'll let you choose one for it.
Yeah, Ollie has so much power right now.
I'm never allowed to host again.
Never taking on the responsibility again. Not ready to have that responsibility.
La responsibility.
Cannot be trusted. So, listeners, this is the end of our first season.
It's been such a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for checking out these episodes. We're aware it's been a strange journey, and it's a strange podcast to listen to. But thank you for listening.
And if there's anyone out there who was at all involved in the making of Disco Elysium, thank you as well for whichever role you played in whatever you did. It was a great game. It brought the three of us closer together as friends, and it was a great experience making this podcast, and we couldn't have done it without the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, like it's been wonderful to make something with the two of you. I think before this, we'd maybe recorded one thing together, which I believe has still not been released.
Okay, yes, that's my fault. Sorry.
That's not a shade. That was just me just realizing that I don't think that's been released. Yeah, I think this podcast holds a special place for me because I do think it's this interesting little time capsule of like our friendship forming and sort of solidifying. And I think you do hear us kind of grow and change as the series goes on, which I think is a very rare thing. And I think it's wonderful that there's this little kind of this little record of that time in our lives. And I'm looking forward to making more. I'm looking forward to playing more games, and looking forward to making more podcasts with the two of you, with my solving more cases with my detective colleagues and pals.
Yeah, but I don't know how to end on a sincere note.
Yes, I was going to say I've made it very difficult for us to actually end the show now, haven't I?
Yeah.
Oh well. Thanks, guys.
Detectives in a trench coat. Three detectives in a trench coat.
Thank you for listening to Three Detectives in a Trench Coat. The three detectives are James Curtis, Oliver Morris, and Amber Devereaux. The podcast is edited by Oliver Morris and Amber Devereaux with original music by Oliver Morris. To find out more about the detectives and some of their previous casework, check the show notes.
Thank you for listening. Love you. Bye.